Wine is uniquely sensitive to our changing climate. Its growers and producers have been amongst the fastest and most innovative in mitigating and adapting to this climate crisis. Cronde Events has pioneered international climate change and wine conferences, featuring the leading names of the industry, with such keynote speakers as Barack Obama, Al Gore, and Kofi Annan. A new edition, Green Wine Future, happens May 23rd through 26th, 2022, from across the planet in their own time zones. California, Chile, Spain, Portugal, France, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Green Wine Future will show solutions for the wine industry in areas such as water resources, energy efficiency, biodiversity, transportation, regenerative viticulture, packaging, climate change, and many others. Using the latest virtual technology, Green Wine Future will offer a totally new format for attending a conference. Pre-recorded footage, live broadcast, and tailor-made documentaries will take delegates into vineyards, wineries, and research projects to witness firsthand which are the solutions to the environmental challenges of our industry. Visit www.greenwinefuture.com to join the most important environmental and sustainability conference for our world of wine.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Yes, thank you for the introduction and for the video there. So welcome to a special webinar that shines hopefully a sustainable light on what's happening both in the UK in terms of tackling climate change, but also around the world. We're here actually wearing sort of two hats today. Obviously, we're here for the Green Wine Future and to look at what the Green Wine Future event is going to offer. But we're also here to take hopefully a sort of deep dive into what steps have been taken within the English and the UK wine industry to tackle climate change. What the issues are here and what some of the steps have been taken by WineGB and the various leading producers to address climate change and hopefully present ideas for producers around the world as well. So to help me do that in a moment will be is Simon Thorpe, Master of Wine, who's the Chief Executive Head of WineGB, and Chris Foss, who's the Chair of the Sustainable Wine part of WineGB, which has been set up to specifically look at how to control and mastermind its response to climate change. We're also here, as I say, to talk about Green Wine Future, and I think from the video that we saw at the start, it's potentially one of the most ambitious, if not the most ambitious, event ever held to look at climate change right around the world with events in different countries, different time zones across, I think, four days. So to help talk us through that and to welcome you also to this session, can I welcome Pancho Campo, founder of Green Wine Future, to join us. Hi, Pancho.
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you today in this session about sustainability in British wine. As the founder of Green Wine Future, I believe that climate change is the biggest challenge that not only our industry is facing, but any other business and especially our society. And that's why that was the philosophy behind the first Green Wine Future we created back in 2006. A lot of things have happened since then. We've had 5 other editions. We were very lucky to have the most influential names of the wine industry from around the world, but also the keynotes of President Barack Obama in 2018 in the event we co-organized with Taylor Sport, and also Vice President Al Gore, who has participated in a couple of occasions, apart from Kofi Annan and the Director General for UNESCO, etc. This year was extremely special for us because of the urgency to act and to start fighting the climate crisis. The main reason why we decided to do this event in different time zones and virtually, it's not so much because of the pandemic. but we have to set example by keeping our carbon footprint as low as possible. It didn't make sense to fly President Obama in a private jet from Washington, plus 50 speakers from South Africa, Chile, the United States. So we know that there are advantages and disadvantages to the virtual world, but we believe that we have to be coherent with our message, which is keeping our carbon footprint as low as possible. But it also allows us to bring guests from all over the planet and to make it easy for those parts of the planet to attend the event. That's why we have established 8 different time zones, starting in California, continuing in South America. Day 2, we go to Portugal and South Africa. Day 3, it's Europe from France and Spain. And the last day, we start with New Zealand and we finish with Australia. Later on, David Fuhrer, who is a co-organizer of the event, together with Mike Bickford from Balsa Communications, he will explain you the program, the topics that are going to be covered, and also the enormous number of speakers that we have confirmed. I think we are close to 120 at the moment, of which 100 probably are some of the most influential and knowledgeable people in the world of wine, but also we have people from other areas. We have politicians such as the Ministry of Agriculture from New Zealand, the Ministry of the Environment of Canada, the Ministry of Tourism from Panama, the oceanographer Sylvia Earle, she is the female version of Jacques Cousteau, plus many others. I think it's important that the wine industry learns from other industries. But I don't want to bother you with too much information about the event. We are here to listen from our guests. That I will ask you, Richard, to kindly introduce them. But before that, I really want to thank the buyer for your support, not only for this session, but for the entire Green Wine Future Conference and all the other conferences that you have supported throughout the years. I want to thank YGB also for being one of our strategic partners. And I hand it over to you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pancho. I appreciate it. And also from my point of view, I've fortunate enough, I think, to come to all your green conferences right going back to, as you say, to 15 years ago, I think it was. So and you have consistently been the person who's kept climate change on the agenda, even when our efforts or focuses have been elsewhere. So I think we all owe you a lots of praise for that as well. So thank you, Pancho, for that. And we'll come back later on in the session to delve a little bit more into Green Wine Future and what you can expect there. But for the main part of the program, I want to try and focus back in on the UK. And I think it's sometimes I can be guilty, but we can be guilty of thinking of climate changes mainly affecting the most severe parts of the world, the driest, the hottest, the most difficult parts of the world, whereas obviously it's actually affecting everybody everywhere, and none more so than obviously in Great Britain itself. And the fact we are now being able to make wine as far north as Yorkshire or even further, and I'm not sure, but is testimony to that. So to help us to look into the climate change issues in the UK, as I mentioned at the beginning, but if I could welcome to Simon Thorpe from WineGB and Chris Foss. Chris, you there as well? Hello. Hello, Claire. How are you all doing? You well?
Very good. Richard, can you hear me okay? I've been having some technology problems. Can you hear me all right?
No, I can hear you loud and clear, sir. You're beaming in from the country somewhere, I'm sure.
Yes. No, but it's not. I don't think it's my location which is causing the problems. Just my technical inexpertise.
Okay, you need your teenage sons to help you out, Chief.
Something like that. Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And yourself, Chris, nice to see you. Hope you're well.
I'm fine, thank you. It's a lovely day here in Brighton.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, what we're on over the next sort of half an hour or so, what I want to try and do really is to sort of explore some of the steps that WineGB are taking, and obviously with all your producer members. Now, I know clearly sustainability has been a major issue for a long time. But Simon, can you perhaps give your thoughts really on where you see the sustainability issue, and also where WineGB fits into that, and what kind of role you can play?
Sorry, yeah. Excuse me, Chris. Can you pick that up for me, and then I'll chip in. I struggle with a bit of background noise there. I'll chip in.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we'd all agree that WineGB and its members are, recognise the threat of climate change and of environmental destruction and mass species extinction, and recognise they have to play their part, and we all have to do something. And pretty urgently as well. It's very much driven by the consumers, of course, because our consumers are generally young and professional, people who want to try lots of different kinds of wines and visit wineries and so on, and those are values which they strongly share. So, but we've also had a lot of support from members of the wine trade, particularly Marks and Spencers and Waitrose, who are sponsors of Sustainable Wines for Great Britain, and they have strong policies in place that support sustainable wines. There's also a lot of pressure, if you like, from our major exporting countries, because English wine is exported mostly to Scandinavia. That's our biggest markets, and of course they're focusing a lot on sustainability in wine production. Lastly, I'd like to say that our producer members, generally they're people that have come from outside, from who they're not sort of generational vine growers, if you like. They're people who are new entrants to agriculture, and they're very, very open to new ideas, and they're generally speaking sufficiently well financed, and so our industry was really, really begging for a sustainability scheme. Really, when I started talking about it with the vine growers and winemakers in the UK 3 years ago, I was pushing an open door. There was a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of support. It really is the right time, and the right industry to develop a sustainability scheme.
Okay, so Simon, hopefully the audio you can pick up. Since you've become the chief executive there, sustainability has been one of the key issues that you've looked to really, well, not only address but actually find a structured way to actually make real tangible steps. And do you want to just talk us through what the Sustainable Wines of Great Britain scheme actually is and how it came about?
Yes, well, I mean, Chris is the founder, the chair of the SWGB scheme, and I think what it set within the context of an industry which is growing really quickly, with a lot of new entrants, a lot of non-farming background vineyard owners now, a large population of new to the industry, new to agriculture people and business managers, and I think what this means is that gradually, as that population increases, there's a thirst for knowledge, and B, a real desire to do the right things. So combine those two things together, and we've got a great platform, in which to create and extend the scheme. Now, so really, as probably any similar scheme would do, we focused initially on the environmental aspects of sustainability, and in particular, obviously, vineyard and winery. And Chris will talk, I'm sure, about our carbon calculator, which we're really proud of and which is really excellent. But so we've got a set of values effectively within the scheme, and it's very much designed to be inclusive. So that the whole scheme is set up to encourage best practice across all viticulture and winemaking processes and practices in the UK, and it's working on a scheme really on a system where if you measure what you're doing, you look at benchmarking your own practices and against industry standards or industry best practice. You formulate plans to improve your those areas which need improving, and then you put into place those plans, remeasure, re-benchmark, replan, and there's this virtuous circle. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to be at a very high level when they enter. There are some minimum requirements. Again, Chris can talk to those, but we want people engaged and on a path of improvement, so that overall, collectively, that then means that as an industry we're on a path to improvement. And that's the kind of fundamental element of the scheme. Really, it's not exclusive. We do want everybody to join in, and then there's this overall holistic benefit. What that means, of course, is that there has to be some structure. We have to be able to measure and benchmark as producers, and then to be able to put into action our plans. So there is some structure behind it, which has happened. We have a data repository now which captures and measures and provides information. And it doesn't sound the most sexy thing, but it's a really important element to this in order to make things somewhat easy from an admin point of view.
So, because also suppose that inclusivity, I suppose, is very much in parallel to how the English wine industry is growing anyway, because obviously you've got very established producers and you've got lots of people who are just starting out. So I suppose having a scheme that allows everybody, at whatever stage they're at, to be able to jump on the ladder.
Yeah. There is that, Richard, and the other element which is really important for this scheme, but for the industry overall, is that we've got a really wide range of different sizes and business models. So there's an awful lot of producers in there's something like I think it was the last number, 870 vineyards in the UK of more than 0.1 of a hectare, and an awful lot of those are very small. And it's an increasing number which are big, but it's a huge range of different producers, and that means that their motivations, their reasons for being in agriculture and in viticulture are different, and we've been around a lot to our regions just of late, and there's so much positive desire to learn, to understand what can be done in this area in order to be able to improve or implement best practice. But it's that small. So we have to be able to incorporate a scheme which allows access for very small and potentially not the most sophisticated businesses in this respect as well. So that's quite a challenge, I think, actually, in this area.
Okay, so you mentioned the best practices there that you want people to try and follow. I mean, clearly you need to set what those best practices are in the first place. So, Chris, do you want to talk us through how you've actually set or gone about determining what are the benchmarks or the practices that people have to follow?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think it's very important to say that we initially did an evaluation of 18 international schemes and compared them all to see how they would apply in the UK, and then decided to take our own path. And rather than setting hard and fast standards, you've got to do this, you mustn't do that, or whatever it is, we decided that we would create something to which our members commit to this continuous improvement cycle. So it's a really bit like going to a gym or trying to lose weight. We're all trying to improve. If anybody can come, anybody can join, but we're all trying to improve. We produce a lot of information. Every month we put out a bulletin, and we run 5 webinars a year. We run workshops. We run a lot of different things to try and get information out to our members. But of course, the very important is our certification scheme with the Sustainable Wines of Great Britain trademark. And in order to gain that trademark, our members need to input data into a data repository, which is then audited by a third party, a company called Ricardo PLC, International Engineering and Environmental Consultants. And so they will look at the information that is put into it's all done online. look at the information that's placed by the member into the data repository in the first year of joining, and then every 3 years. And if if they pass the audit standards of Ricardo, they get to use a trademark on their box. Now, audit is purely to look if they're doing the right recording, if they're recording the right things. So it really is, whether they're recording, say, for instance, components contributing to their carbon footprint, or fuel, energy, water, manpower, these sort of things. And then as the audits develop, they are expected to generate more plans to compare their performance and generate plans in order to improve. What we do is supply best practice guidelines. So we say, right, okay, here's some information. How about trying this? This is what we would suggest, right? We're not forcing people down any road. So say, for instance, we've developed a best practice guidance leaflet, if you like, with Simonit and Search, the international master pruning company, on the most sustainable way to prune. And what we're asking our members to do is to look at that list, consider it, sign to say that they've considered it, but not necessarily abide by it, because people have to prune differently according to their own vineyards and according to their own situations. So we do similar sort of suggestions, lists of suggestions, if you like, for things like environmental preferable purchasing. And we're going to develop further best practice suggestions for the areas of our objectives, which are things like soil health, minimizing pesticide inputs, carbon footprint, conserving the environment and promoting biodiversity.
And is the idea then to be able to also identify perhaps best in class or producers who are really going the extra mile or really presenting, and then be able to use those as sort of case studies, or getting them involved in sharing their thoughts as well?
The beauty of the data repository is that all the data is anonymized once it's put on there, but it's accessible only to myself and to the auditor. But that means that we can pull down examples of best practice and use them to spread information, if you like, and to generate generate improvement throughout the whole industry. Okay, so it's a pooling of different ideas and resources that we can do. And I've got to say, on sustainability, it really is an area where our industry is ready to cooperate. It really they're very, very positive in working together like that.
Yeah.
So eventually, I think we're going to offer some prizes, aren't we, for the best performing sustainable vineyards or something like that. This is the Wine GB thing. There's going to be a deal.
Surely, yes.
The ceremony, the Wine of the Year award will also be awarding prizes for those which have progressed most, or those which are highest level of sustainability. But this scheme is only 2 years old, so let's take it step by step.
Because I remember talking to you, Simon, during lockdown, or one of the lockdowns, about the whole idea of this, the data aspect to it, and how important that was. I mean, from a Wine GB point of view, I guess it's all very well, as you say, having lots of best practice, but you need to be able to measure in order to, well, I suppose, justify the role that you're playing, but also to, I suppose, working with commercial partners and getting people involved to actually see the real benefit and action that's been taken.
Well, you're quite right, but and as Chris says, we're only 2 years into the scheme, so there's many things about it which are still works in progress, and one of very much around gathering of the data from the SWGB, from the Sustainable Wines of Great Britain scheme. So we're coming to a stage where we're going to be able to start publishing some data around what's going on, what's going on in the vineyards from the elements that Chris has discussed, in carbon outputs and soil health, etc. We're a little way off being able to say this is the situation for the whole of the country, and therefore to allow the individual producers to be able to say, wow, I'm doing really well here, I'm not doing so well there, therefore that's the area for me to focus on. That's kind of coming as we gather more and more data through the process. But it is a sign that we're very young. I mean, overall as an industry, we do suffer from at the moment from a paucity of really good solid data. And gradually we're working our way through that and working with the government agencies in order to be able to have that mandated a little bit more. So we get to there's some great examples around the world where of data and how it's used to drive forward strategies and to drive understanding of from the industry more broadly around the areas that are important. But specifically within SWGB, we're so early. We're kind of in gathering data mode, actually. To be honest, I think that's fair, Chris, isn't it, to say that?
Yeah. And is there a kind of a kind of mass of producers that you need to make that data credible? So you need a certain number of producers to be involved in the program.
We've got most of the large producers on board. I mean, overall, we represent 60% of WineGB members and 40% of the national vineyard area of the UK. Recognizing that most vineyards in the UK are semi-commercial, may I say, that they are pretty small, and so may not be interested in the scheme. So certainly within WineGB, there are very few large producers who aren't members. Generally speaking, they're very, very supportive.
Okay, and within those producers, then is it important for them to be able to have best in class? I mean, like you mentioned the awards there, though. I mean, it is in a way a lot of all this. You learn, you take your data, but to be able to really get the motivation to go to the next step is having those kind of rewards element to this an important part of it.
I think, yes, certainly. I mean, they're allowed to use the trademark on their websites and on their communication media and so on, but to have it on their actual bottles, they do have to have a wine that's produced from 85% of the grapes have to be grown in a certified winery. Certified vineyard, sorry, and the wine has to be made in a certified winery. Okay. And so that's quite a challenge, actually, particularly as we're sparkling wine producers, and it takes a good sort of couple of years for the wine to go on market. For a lot of them, it's a new way of thinking. They do have to consider a whole lot of new aspects of their production, like how much water they use and how much energy they use, and so on. And that's proving very interesting to them. But I think that the main thing really is being able to bear the trademark. I think that's that's the prize, is being able to say, yes, we are working to produce our wines sustainably, and then we're working together. It's a cooperative sort of system, and I don't think that and I think what we're looking for is, if you like, an aura of sustainability around the whole industry. Within that, there will be some people that will shine, but we'd like the customer to have to really believe that British wine is produced as a sustainable industry. It's something that which shares their values from a point of view of climate change, environment, and biodiversity.
Yeah, and is that collaboration, Simon, an important thing for you as well in terms of getting that connection with your members, so that you can also be learning from them in terms of what they're looking to you for as well?
Totally, yeah. I mean, as Chris says, the tipping point almost will be around the kind of hallmark, and then the connection with those producers to the consumer and the credentials that builds, and having a very authoritative sustainability scheme is a real value to producers. I mean, it's not really going to be optional in a few years' time. I think we're going to be moving on quite strongly to in this whole area. There'll be a whole load of developments that come through, and hopefully we'll be ahead of those as an industry. And again, as Chris says, for us, for wine producers here, to be seen, regarded as leaders in this area is really important. But it will be expected, actually. I think, and it's an interesting element of the profile of the consumer for the wines that we sell. It is somebody who's younger and somebody who is really demanding in this area, almost as to the extent that there would be some surprises, I think, if they were to discover that wines weren't necessarily produced in a very sustainable way, and I think that's an overall challenge, not just for us here in the UK, but around the world, actually. Sorry, go on.
Is it also important for you, I guess, with Wine GB, with the number of producers and the number of vines that have been planted in the last 2-3 years? There's just an extraordinary amount of growth. And as you say, a lot of those people are coming into the sector from outside who may not necessarily have a wine making background to almost sort of make sure that people aren't cutting corners or aren't trying to produce wine in a way that allows them to make money, but isn't good for the overall.
Well, yeah, I would turn that statement on its head, actually, because what we don't have is anything to unravel as an industry, bad practice to unravel. So actually, we've got a bit of a blank canvas, and definitely the desire to do well, to do the right thing. So therefore, people will start their journey thinking with that sustainability, that environmental custodianship in mind when they're planting and when they're doing that, from a viticultural perspective. So actually, it's the perfect time to start early, get in process the right activities, the right plans, and you're not having to grub up your vineyard or think about adding back nutrients into a soil which has been overworked over the years. So actually it's ideal. And also the other thing I think about our industry is here in the UK is that we're a bit of a sponge. That we're the center of, or we have been the kind of center of the global wine trade historically. It sounds rather a grand statement, and I don't mean it to be in any way an arrogant thing, but we're exposed to so much brilliance from around the world, both from a wine quality and a viticultural processes, and we see it because we talk to the people that are doing it, and therefore being able to take on board the best elements of what people are up to and having discussions. And Chris is organizing a visit to the Alentejo in a few months to be able to go and learn what they're up to. And we're very open-minded, I think, as a wine industry here, and that feeds into the production side of things. So it all kind of augurs well. We've just got, I'm an impatient person. I want us to be at the point where we know all about what we're up to currently, and therefore we can make amendments, make adjustments, and improve. But we're just not at that stage yet. It's an annual cycle, and we just have to build as strongly for the future as we can. But whilst bearing in mind that we're not going to be able to do everything now or have everything now.
I think that's interesting you said that, because I think when you travel, you hear people talking about the English industry. There's a respect there that people are making world standard quality wine, which once they've got past the surprise of that, it's now understood that they are. So it kind of, we are. So therefore, it kind of goes hand in hand that the sustainable practices that you're working with should also be world class as well. So I suppose you couldn't necessarily be making world class wines if you've not got a reputation for the sustainable aspect to it as well.
No, absolutely. And it's not only just in sustainability that we can be world class. I think there's an awful lot of different elements of the wine business overall that we really can and do lead in. I think the other thing to bear in mind here is that in a sort of global context, the campaigns around sustainable, environmental good practice is quite different here to a lot of other producing countries. We have different challenges, and that's so we can be experts, we can be leaders in cool climate viticulture, probably not in warm climate. In the other elements that are being looked at there, it's not within our context, not within our framework at the moment. So that kind of positioning as looking to be world class, it runs through kind of the whole of our activity as an industry, and that goes all the way from the quality of the wine to sustainability, to tourism, wine tourism elements, as well as the way we market the products as well. So yeah, you're bang on. It's a really good opportunity to showcase excellence.
Yeah, I guess, Chris, going back to the carbon calculator there that Simon mentioned earlier, I guess, well, talk us through the carbon calculator. It's visual baby. Explain how that works if it's not obvious enough.
Well, okay, let's first say that the most important thing about climate change is reducing our carbon emissions. We all agree with that. Therefore, any industry that really takes climate change seriously has to have a has to have a carbon calculator and measure its carbon emissions. So I did the rounds a lot of research on that, and I think now we've got the best wine industry carbon calculator in the world. I mean, certainly I'd like to challenge any other industry to find a better one. I mean, one of the interesting things is that our wine calculator is free to use for anybody. So it's quite simple to use, actually, and it's free to use for anybody who wishes to. We've adapted it not just for vine growing, but also for winemaking, and eventually we'll do so for the trade aspects of it. But it's from a winemaking point of view, it's very comprehensive. And what's interesting is that, I mean, there are several different layers of it, if you like. You can go quite deep, but there are so it's quite detailed if you want to. But if you don't want to go into that level of detail, you can do quite superficial calculations. But it's also very good at carbon sequestration, because of course vineyards sequester about 2 tons of carbon a year, for instance, so that's featured in, but also the area surrounding them. So if there are any non-commercial areas, and there often are surrounding vineyards, of trees or bushes or hedgerows or whatever it is, we can count those in, and they help give a much more sort of realistic picture of what's going on in the vineyard. So it's an excellent tool, and from the WineGB vineyard, from the WineGB website, I would encourage everybody to have a look at it.
Okay,
and try it out. The reports are very clear, and very that it generates are very clear, and they're very informative.
And can you use the calculator without having necessarily being part of the scheme? Is it a way of like testing yourself?
I've got to say that one of the first questions it asks you is your scheme number, which is a 4-digit randomly generated number. And well, if you can, please, if you are trying it just for fun, please use a sort of number like 7777 or something like that that I know isn't a member, because I don't want I can eliminate those entries very quickly. But yeah, all you need to do is think up of a 4-digit random number, and you can go in there and have a look, and explore the carbon calculator.
Fascinating. So can I ask you, actually, because obviously we know you from your Plumpton College days, clearly. Do you see, well, remind me if I'm where sustainability sits within the agenda or the curriculum at Plumpton College, and do you think this is a way where the work that you're doing now with WineGB can also help future winemakers at Plumpton College?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I was 30 years at Plumpton College. Obviously, I managed the department and set up the vineyard and winery, but my main teaching and research activity was with climate change, viticulture, climate change and sustainability. So I retired 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. And when I retired, I thought I'd still like to do some work in the wine industry. Not necessarily paid, because it's got a decent teacher's pension. And about 15 years ago, I'd done some work evaluating different sustainability schemes, and I thought, well, we'd try sort of putting that research into practice, if you like. Contacted a few winemakers and vine growers I know, and hey presto, they were very keen. I still have links with Plumpton College, of course, because they're just up the road. And this year, SWGB launched its project scholarship scheme. So every year, well, I've got to explain that SWGB is largely funded by sponsorship. So there's 25 different companies that contribute towards helping SWGB function. And every year we allocate a quarter of our money, of our sponsorship money, towards research activity, if you like. The more sort of projects that only a year long, but research activity which will help our members work direct. Our members achieve their objectives.
Okay.
So we've got a long-running project, for instance, on birds in the vineyards, which is really interesting. We have a bird expert from the University of East Anglia, who's absolutely amazing. She can recognise birds and what they're doing, at a glance. And of course, as you know, there are three types of birds in vineyards. There are those that eat grapes that we don't really want to encourage. There are those that eat the pests that eat the grapes that we want to try and encourage those, and others are just passing through and not necessarily interacting with the vineyard. And what we're looking at is the sort of distribution of these different groups of birds and trying to see how we can discourage the ones that eat the grapes in a sustainable way, obviously, but encourage those that have a positive influence on the vineyard.
Okay.
So that's that sort of thing. We're also looking into pollinators, the abundance of pollinators depending on different vineyard floor management strategies and pesticide use. And we're looking at the use of biochar and how biochar can be used to improve soils and sequester carbon within vineyards. And the last one we're looking at is looking at the optimizing, if you like, valorizing, I think you call it, vineyard waste, particularly pomace, winery waste, pomace, and trying to find within our industry a use for what is an important byproduct, which is the marc, the pressings that come out at the end of the process of winemaking.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Aware of our time, I want to pass it back to the Green Wine Future guys to talk through their plans. But Simon, perhaps if I come back to you for a final thought, really, just in terms of you mentioned, you're pretty early days really with the actual whole program. But if you had a sort of crystal ball in sort of 3 to 5 years' time, where would you want to get to? What is sort of your
That's a perfect thing segue. Thanks, Richard, for throwing that question out. I think certainly. We're concentrating strongly on the environmental side of things at the moment, but that's obviously only one element of sustainability, or in a very broad sense. And our challenges next, conundrums next, are to look at how to roll out the membership of the scheme to as many of the producers as we can. I think we've got most of the large ones within the scheme already, but there's a lot more, as we said before. So that's one thing. And then the next thing is the strategy around introducing elements of social and economic sustainability into the scheme, and how they bolt on, whether they bolt on, all those things which are absolutely common sense, logical next steps. We have to fathom out how those elements should be applied. And we certainly want we have a vision that every producer will be sustainably accredited in some way or other, whether that's actually feasible or not. We just want to be able to make it accessible and applicable to as many of the producers as possible, and then to have the hallmark, the stamp, recognized both by the trade, by the consumer, and then internationally. You know, that's the kind of the ultimate goal here from the consumer engagement perspective, so that we're recognized as an industry that cares about the environment and looks after the environment in those different elements. And, you know, as I said before, it's not that anybody should need to be forced into this. Of course, the imperative is massive from an overall global perspective, and it will be part and parcel of packaging going forward. You know, it's just a question as an industry, overall industry, both from not just from a wine perspective, but from an FMCG or a CG perspective. We have to look about, make sure that we're communicating in a clear and relevant way to the consumer, so that they can actually understand what we mean when we say, look, sustainable wine's a Great Britain hallmark. You know, that I think that's really, really important. So yeah, it's pretty fundamental to what we do, I think, as an industry and as WineGB, and it's certainly one of our key areas of focus, both from an investment and from a resource and research and development perspective. And you know, you talked about Plumpton. Anybody that's thinking about activity within agriculture in general, but within viticulture certainly, you know, you can't avoid you know, the environment and best practice and such like. You know, it's ingrained in everything really, that everybody's learning about at the moment, and it's really good to see so much emphasis being placed on you know, what are the implications of this from an environment perspective, and then seeing those actions being put into place in the vineyards and wineries is really rewarding and great.
Excellent, thank you. And Chris, a final thought from yourself in terms of where you hope the scheme can go next.
I'm fine. I mean, I just want, you know, I just want our industry to be a leading exemplar of good practice in the world and in sustainable development. You know, that's all I want, really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for you both for sharing and opening the window a little bit on what you're doing. And as I say, from how you've described it just, well, two things really. One is incredibly well thought through, but also that continuous improvement and the fact that everybody can move at their own pace, which I think is really in line with how the industry is developing. So thanks for that, indeed. If you want to ask questions, you can do on the comment side of the platform, and I know Simon and Chris obviously would be happy to follow up afterwards separately if you wanted to talk to them about things that you can do, or how do you get involved with the scheme, or if you want to know more about it. So if I now perhaps pass back to Pancho and introduce David Fiore, who's the program director of Green Wine Future, to pick up on where we are, because I know GB is not one of the host countries for Green Wine Future, but clearly, you know, what's happening here is very much part of the cool climate, as Simon was saying. So, do you want to perhaps talk us through, David and Pancho, what plans you have in terms of how you're going to take some of these best practice ideas and share them to the world?
I will let David tackle that one because he is the program director and he's in touch with all the speakers, and he's the one designing the program of panels and keynotes. Well, give a quick glimpse into what this 4-day conference is all about, May 23rd to 26th. Please check in greenwinefuture.com and see what's going on. We have 24 sessions of groups presenting to you. We'll have 16 different keynote speakers from all over the world. Pancho already mentioned a few. He did neglect to include a gentleman from New Zealand, who's also was born in the UK. Sam Neill is going to be one of our keynote speakers. Amongst our 24 sessions, we have things about viticulture, adaptive vine material, an old vine session with people from all over the world. We're looking also at water management issues,
we're giving a nod to other organizations that that is Pancho and I were there for to help kind of see the genesis of. The IWCA, the Porto Protocol are going to be having their own dedicated sessions as well. We're looking at renewable energies, carbon sequestration, as was brought up in your conversation with Chris and Simon there, and things about packaging as well. Not the most sexy topic, but it's got to be talked about. It is a theme these days: greenhouse gas emissions and even luxury issues and sustainability. Now, we also have, again, adjacent to all this, something worth mentioning, because Richard and Simon, you both have or will be participating in our series of podcasts that are designed to promote and give a glimpse into the conference coming up. So a lot of these podcasts are already up on our website, greenwinefuture.com. They are free for everybody to download. They are audio podcasts only, no video. And these, we have a lot of interesting people that are on both the conference and the podcasts. Moet Hennessy's CEO, Philippe Schaus, has lent his time as well. Richard, you too co-hosted an episode with me that with Rob Symington, the anonymous Portuguese winery, was present along with Molly Shepard, an Australian who's been long at Spotswood Winery in Napa Valley, California. And Simon's going to be sharing the stage with none other than Etienne de Montiel of Burgundy pretty soon in a podcast episode. So check those out as well. These conference, by the way, is also, we've always had, Pancho has always insisted that there are NGOs, charitable recipients that have benefit from this. So this nonprofit event, we have looking out to benefit from this, Wine Unify, a California-based U.S. operation that looks to address issues of equity within the wine trade so far only in the United States, but pay attention, it's going to expand soon. Also, SOS Cape Town, that deals with water issues in South Africa, as well as the aforementioned Porto Protocol. So there's a lot of things going on. We have people from all over the world. Pancho, while we're waiting here, I did count. We have exactly 120 confirmed speakers at the Green Wine Future events. So there's a lot going on here. Please check us out.
Can I ask you, because obviously you're doing a mixture of actual in-person events, aren't you? And also events that you can follow on Zoom. Can you or online? Can you explain how the actual, if you register for the Green Wine Future, do you get to see everything in every country, or do you register per country, or how do you? Pancho, do you want to answer that? Or
one fee covers it all. So, and by the way, you don't have to be there at the time of broadcast. You can tune in after the fact and review what was already broadcast as well. So there's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of flexibility, because the times that we're in really require a lot of flexibility in this virtual conference. There will be some live at that moment appearances by people at the conclusions of sessions. There will be some questions and answers for some of the sessions. And so people who are tuning in live will have the opportunity to pose their questions. As well, these live portions will be part of the mix that people can tune into after the fact as well.
So by live, you mean actually an in-person event, as a face-to-face event, as opposed to being online?
As far as a live in face-to-face situation, we leave that up to our 8 geographic host locations to determine if they want to have something adjacent. Some have chosen to do so, some have not.
Okay. And Pancho, what can you talk us through the idea behind the actual format? Because obviously I know you've traditionally done an event in an actual country, and I totally understand the reason why you want to cut the carbon footprint by taking it to country by country. But do you want to talk us through how that's evolved and how you've managed to get all the various different countries to take part?
Actually, it was very easy to get the countries to support us, because everybody is aware of how important and how crucial it is that we start addressing this issue, not just by hosting conferences and listening to our speakers, but sharing solutions and strategies and a strong call to action. So when we told the different countries in the different time zones that this was the idea behind it, they welcomed the idea, because when we did the last Wine Future in March last year, we got some kind of complaints from California and Australia that they wanted to attend the event, but because of the time difference, it was almost 5 o'clock in the morning in Australia. So some of these people wanted to participate live. Although our event is recorded and available immediately in real time as soon as the session finishes, for example, this one, as soon as it finishes, 30 seconds later, it will be available for you to read, for you to view. And that, up to a month. A lot of people want to be connected in real time. So having said that, the other advantage is when we did Wine Future, or when we did the climate change leadership, the cost of the event is reduced considerably by going on a virtual format. Just to give you an example, to book a venue like the one we had in Portugal or like the one I had in Barcelona, you're talking 100,000 euros for 4 days. Venue, ushers, audio visuals, videos. In this virtual world, we have to pay hopping. It's quite an expensive platform because it's probably the most advanced platform in for virtual events. But it allows us to sell the tickets at a much more reduced price. I remember in Hong Kong, the price for the ticket was almost 1,500 euros to register for the 3-day conference. Here, your listeners, your subscribers are entitled to the special rate of $68 American. That gives you access to the 4 days of conference and for 1 month to see on demand. It also gives you a virtual magazine that we will send, containing interviews, articles of interest, different aspects of the conference. You can access 1 week prior to the event the virtual expo area, the virtual trade show area, where we have already something like 60 or 70 different virtual booths. And it also allows you to enter the networking zone that it will also be available 1 week prior to the event. So you can start doing business, 1 week, 10 days before the event. So when the event comes, you can concentrate on the presentation. And if you allow me, and if you think we have time, we recorded a video with a wine producer here in Spain to show the audience how the event is going to look like. It's not going to be a Zoom like us, that we have 3 or 4 or 5 faces on screen. It's Federico Schatz. It's a German producer, pioneer of winemaking in the region of Ronda. But it will also show the speakers, the kind of footage that we're looking for. So if you allow me, I will show you the video. It's a very informative video, actually, because he's talking about biodynamics. I hope you like it. And at the end, we'll be happy with David to answer any more questions you have. So, Patricia, video. Today we are visiting the wine country of Ronda. Ronda is one of the most visited and most beautiful cities of all Andalusia, north of Marbella, about 60 minutes drive. And we've come to visit my friend Federico Schatz. Federico has been one of the pioneers in this region, initially with some German varieties, but eventually he has adopted grape varieties such as Pinot Noir and Tempranillo. He is passionate about the environment, about fighting the climate crisis. And we're going to use this video to show the speakers at Green Wine Future the kind of footage that we're looking for. This video is being recorded with my iPhone. I'm not even using a lapel microphone, I'm using the microphone of the camera, just to show you how easy it is to put images to what you are going to be talking about during the conferences of Green Wine Future. Join me and let's go and meet Federico Schatz.
Yes, we are here on Finca Sanguijuela, on the mountains of Sierra Sanguijuela. We are on a sea level of 700 meters and about 50 kilometers far from Africa, 40 kilometers from the Mediterranean Sea and 80 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. We are 8 kilometers near the town Ronda, and we are located in the province of Malaga, Andalusia, Spain. We work on our 3 hectares from 8 different grape varieties, 6 different wines. All our wines are organic, biodynamic and natural. We don't use sulfites, so we only use our own grapes and oak barrels. The grape varieties we use are Pinot Noir, Petit Verdot. Then we have also Lemberger grape. We are the only winery in Spain working 100% with Lemberger. Then we use also as Chardonnay for our white wine and Moscatel Negro for our rosé wine. And also the blend we are working is Finca Sanguijuela, the brand name, and it's a blend of 3 grape varieties. Here we use Tempranillo, Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. We are near to the Mediterranean Sea, but separated from a high mountain. It's Sierra de las Nieves, who has more or less 2,000 meters of high. So we have more influence of Atlantic climate. That means that the winter months, as January, February, March, we have a low temperature in the night, -5, -3, -10, -15 was the lowest temperature I've measured here. And in the day, when you have a day without any wind and any clouds, you can have easily 20, 25 degree at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In summer, the temperature rise up to 30 degree. The average temperature is more or less 27, 29, 33, but some days also with 40. But again, in the night, the temperature goes down until more or less a level of 18, 16 degrees. So it's a really fresh area in the night. And we have only rainfall in the winter period from October to May. No rain is coming from May to October. And so we have a natural dry stress situation, who is, I think, very nice for our wines, because so they have to go very deep down with their roots. And so finally they have more extension of the roots, and you can catch more minerality from the soil. We have enough rainfall because we are very near to a mountain area who is called Grazalema. Grazalema, it's about 20 kilometers far from us in the north part, in the province of Cádiz. And there we have a space who it's the rainiest space from Spain and also from Europe. So we have more or less there in this spot 4,000 liter rainfall per square meter per year. And here in Ronda we have more or less average value of about 500, 600 liter per square meter each year. So it's a really interesting area because it's a southerly surface, but completely good, still good with enough rainfall. And so it's a very nice thing, this combination of the very low temperature in the night and enough rainfall in the winter period. Grape varieties are also a very important tool for us. So we can work with long cycle grape varieties. For example, we are working with Petit Verdot also. So Petit Verdot is a very long cycle grape variety, needs much more maturing period. And so finally you are entering again in the cool autumn to do the harvest. And so you have another possibility to fight against the climate change. Also you can work in the soil with different fertilizing. For example, we have also fertilized it here a lot with cool, vegetative cool, you know. So finally this helps also to have more humidity in the soil. You can have much more hygroscopicity, and there's also a much bigger surface who is catching the CO2, and finally that helps also to avoid the climate change. And fantastic soil is also important. When you see the roots of the plants, finally you see also these composition of different part of the soil is linked together like with glue. This is a really nice connection to soil, who is the basic thing of all. Well, as we are organic and biodynamic and natural, so we work also with the biodynamic herbs. So it's a huge help in the soil. So we have really a good soil. We have really a soil with enough nutrients. We have a soil who is completely ordered because of the application of the biodynamic products, mainly the 500 product, you know, the cow manure. Finally, we can have an order in the soil, and when you have an order in the soil, finally you can have a fruit from your plant, in this case the grapes from our wines, with a really natural order inside. So when you bring these fine and mature and ordered grapes to the cellar to produce a wine of them, you have finally, if you do a smooth winemaking in the cellar, also a very nice order in the wine, and so the wine is stable for its own. You need no much more. And also you can have really in a complicated year, or in a year where it's a little bit more hot or whatever, when you have a natural soil, when you have an organic soil, you have the help from the microorganisms, and finally you can have a little bit like a smoother working, and the wines have not so much stress as, for example, in other conventional soils. And also when you have covered your wines, as we have covered them with our green fertilizer, you can have minimum 10 degree of Celsius less of temperature inside of the soil. So this helps also a lot again. And also when you have a lot of green fertilizer, a lot of weeds, you will have finally also much more humidity in the soil. It's not the other opposite thing. The people are thinking that the weeds are taking out the humid, but it's the opposite thing, because they are covering the soil, they are giving a shadow to the soil, and so they are protecting the water who has come from the winter period, and also the temperature. And of course you can also have your own energy, as we have. You can see on the backstage our solar panels. We were the solar station, the first solar station, private solar station in Andalusia, the biggest one in the 90s when we have produced this. And with these solar panels we have enough energy for all of the energy we need for our winemaking, and of course for our private living in our house and so on. So since '93 we are completely disconnected from the grid. We don't need extra energy. So finally this is a thing who everyone can do today, and it's also very cheap now. The prices have going very low of the solar panels, so now it's not expensive. Now it's really economically to have your own solar panels. And what we are seeking for this is that each person have the historically possibility who we have now to produce for the first time their own energy. And then later on, when you need more energy, you can have from the grid. So it's much more easy now when we have solar panels in our own houses. Each roof can be covered with solar panels, schools, industrial area, industrial stores, whatever. And later on, then we can see if we need much more energy from the grid, who have to come, for example, from other producers. So it's really a good thing, and finally we can avoid to not have to build more grids. We don't need more wires and so on, because we have the grids from the beginning, so it's completely enough. So this is really a good point, to produce our own energy, and our energy is produced in the spot where we are using the energy, so we don't have to bring the energy from another point. And this is very good for your CO2 footprint, you know. When we use the biodynamic herbs and the biodynamic preparations, finally we can help the soil to be a better soil, a soil with more order. We can help also to the plants to be more healthier, that they have more force, that they have more capacity to catch the nutrients from the soil. And so finally, when you are using the biodynamic preparations, finally you can give a stronger help to all the plants and the soil, that they can really fight against these more hotter days, or these some period of less rain and of dryness. And those they are really have more strongness and are more prepared to kind of fight all against these things who are coming. Also, we have to understand, when we don't use chemical fertilizers, finally we have no salt in the soil. And you know, when you use chemical fertilizers, the soil is very salty, and you need much more water to that plants can grow in these salty soil.
Well, that is an example of the kind of video we're looking for. As you can see, Federico speaks English with a very strong German accent, but he did the job. And just to show you how easy to do this, except for the drone images, you don't need that. It took me 1 hour to drive there, 1 hour to record all that footage, 1 hour to come back, and 90 minutes to edit it and put the music and all that. So in half a day, you can get a video like that done. And it was done entirely with my iPhone, no external microphones, no special lights. So just to show you that, for conferences, even Richard, when we go back to in-person conferences, I will encourage our speakers to bring footage that they have recorded personally, because it reflects much better what you're trying to convey.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that for us. I thought for 1 minute you'd actually started the conference, but it was good to see. So I'm just aware of our time. I know lots of people have given up their lunch times to join us today. So I think what I'll do is wrap it up here now and say thanks to everybody for taking part. Thanks for Simon and Cliff for sharing your insights into what WineGB is doing with a sustainable program in the UK, and obviously to Pancho and David for presenting Green Wine Future. And obviously, if you want to sign up and find out more, then please go to the website and register for what looks like a great 4 days in May. But for now, thank you very much for your time, and good afternoon to everybody. Cheers.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wine is uniquely sensitive to our changing climate. Its growers and producers have been amongst the fastest and most innovative in mitigating and adapting to this climate crisis. Grand Events has pioneered international climate change and wine conferences, featuring the leading names of the industry, with such keynote speakers as Barack Obama, Al Gore, and Kofi Annan. A new edition, Green Wine Future, happens May 23rd through 26th, 2022, from across the planet in their own time zones. California, Chile, Spain, Portugal, France, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Green Wine Future will show solutions for the wine industry in areas such as water resources, energy efficiency, biodiversity, transportation, regenerative viticulture, packaging, climate change, and many others. Using the latest virtual technology, Green Wine Future will offer a totally new format for attending a conference. Pre-recorded footage, live broadcast, and tailor-made documentaries will take delegates into vineyards, wineries, and research projects to witness firsthand which are the solutions to the environmental challenges of our industry. Visit www.greenwinefuture.com to join the most important environmental and sustainability conference for our world of wine.